Hi everyone, my name is Charlie and today I have my June and July book haul. Now, I did actually record a video talking about the books that I purchased in June at the start of this month. Never edited it, never uploaded it, it's just sitting on my computer, so I thought I'd just tag the 3 books I purchased on to the start of this video. Firstly, we have And After Many Days by Jawa Ile. This book follows a family after their son Paul has left the house in the rainy season of 1995 to visit a friend and never returns. His younger brother, meanwhile, is struggling with the guilt of coping with being the last person to see him. And then you also have the fact that it is telling the story of what's going on within politics and the world at that moment. I've also heard tell that this discusses some more of like the myth and the folklore surrounding the country at this time. I saw this book mentioned on LitHub a year ago, around the same time as I had Homegoing, Kintu and Here Comes the Sun recommended, and this was on that list as well, and I've just been going back and picking books to read at certain times, all about the best books to be looking out for in African fiction at the moment, and that is an area of fiction that I want to be reading more from, which was the whole reason I went and I purchased this book. I have also seen the author talking about the book on YouTube, and if I can find the video then I will link it below, but it's certainly something to go and watch because it is what eventually compelled me to go and purchase the book in the end. Next we have The Idiot by Alif Batuman. This story follows the character of Salin, who is at university, and I believe it follows her having some sort of vacation and love affair that doesn't really go well, something like that. But it's all about this character discovering more about herself, and again this was listed as one of the books to look out for this year, which seems to have been what a lot of my reading and purchasing tastes have been based on this year, is all about books that have been recommended, and in some ways I'm beginning to think that I might not do that next year because I've not been really finding books that I haven't heard of this year. So either way, people say this book is hilarious, people are really enjoying the book, so maybe I will as well. Next we have The Leavers by Lisa Coe, which has been likened to The Patriots and Harmless Like You, both books which I own but haven't read yet. This follows 2 characters, a mother and a son, and the mother is deported from America. Her son is rechristened with an English name, and both of them tell their stories. I don't know whether they meet each other again, but apparently it's going to be talking about family and immigration and loss and all of those fun things that we really like to talk about nowadays. And now we have the books that I purchased in July. July is the month in which I finally turned 25, which has been something that I haven't really been looking forward to ever since I turned 24. And so naturally I worked that day and nobody knew it was my birthday and I didn't receive any gifts. So really it just goes to show that once you reach adulthood, birthdays don't matter, and once you reach 25 you're really just on the downward spiral towards death, I believe. Anyway, because of this I went and I just purchased myself some books because I thought, what's the point in waiting on other people? Firstly, we have Eureka by Anthony Quinn, and this book involves characters from his books Curtain Call and Freya. I read Freya last year and really enjoyed it, and I believe that that character is featured in here. Her name is mentioned in the blurb, but this book is following a different character in the form of Nat, who you saw in Freya, who is a struggling screenwriter, and also follows the characters now that they're in the 1960s, whereas before it went over the 20-year period from the day to the 60s. This book is set in 1967 and is following the characters now, whilst also talking about the screenplay that Nat is writing called Eureka. This is apparently a book that's going to talk about the 60s and show the 60s in all of their glory, and as I really enjoyed Freya by Anthony Quinn, I'm quite looking forward to this one. Next we have Tin Man by Sarah Winman, which I think you're going to be seeing on a lot of people's book hauls for July. It has been recommended by a lot of booktubers this month. I have read both of Sarah Winman's previous books, When God Was a Rabbit and A Year of Marvellous Ways. I enjoyed When God Was a Rabbit, but I read the other book earlier this year and didn't really get into it. However, this book is something completely different in that it is telling a story about two boys called Alice and Michael, and then this woman walks into their lives, and I believe one of them ends up married off, something happens to the other one, and it's going to be tragic. I've seen a lot of people crying about this book, but a lot of people really enjoying it, and I think it's one that a lot of people have been reading in one sitting, which on a rainy afternoon like today, it might be just the thing to be looking at. Next we have Lillian Boxfish Takes a Walk by Kathleen Rooney. I saw this recommended by Russell over on Ink and Paper blog, I will link his channel down below, and he seemed to really enjoy this book. And it tells the story of an 85-year-old woman, Lillian Boxfish, who leaves on, I believe it's New Year's Eve, and she starts walking, and then she just goes on this walk, and on the way she meets a lot of people, but it also is going to tell the story of her life. At least that is what I believe from what I have heard people talking about. Because it was telling the story of an older lady, that was something that made me want to read it straight away. We don't see a lot of older characters in fiction, and when we do, they aren't often represented in the best life, but apparently this book is funny, witty and charming, and because of that it is something that I have been looking forward to for a while, yet I could only find the American hardback on Amazon, and it was too expensive for me to even think about purchasing, so I was very happy to discover this paperback edition, and I think that I am really going to enjoy this book, and if I don't, I'm going to be really disappointed, so there's only two ways this could go really. Next we have The Music Shop by Rachel Joyce, and again Jen Campbell interviewed Rachel Joyce on her channel. I will leave a link somewhere to that as well, and so I think that a lot of people are going to be purchasing this book. The Unlikely Pilgrimage of Harold Fry is Joyce's famous work that a lot of people have gone out and read, and is a book that I still mean to pick up. I have it on audiobook, so I may listen to it as Jim Broadbent narrates it. The Music Shop tells the story of Frank, who I think is able to find just what music every one of his customers needs. And one day this woman walks into his shop and he finds himself mesmerised by her, and it's going to tell the story of these two people, and it's going to be funny, it's going to be charming, it's going to be like reading a BBC movie, and it's going to warm the heart. At least that is what I am expecting from Rachel Joyce, because that is what I have been told to expect. I have been saving this book in the hopes that one day in the depths of winter, when I'm looking for this sort of book, that I will read it, and I'm hoping to actually finally finish a Rachel Joyce book. Next we have The Upstairs Room by Katie Murray Brown, and I purchased this book because Joanna Cannon mentioned it on Twitter, and Joanna Cannon wrote my favourite book of last year, The Trouble with Goats and Sheep, and I am going to accept any of her recommendations. This book is described as a modern ghost story. This family move into a house with their two daughters, and immediately the wife, Eleanor, begins to experience some symptoms she believes that it is causing her to be ill, and decides to solve the mystery of why this house is making her ill, and also solve the mystery surrounding a lodger of theirs. It sounds tense, it sounds dark, it sounds a bit like a gothic mystery for the modern ages, and I am wholeheartedly thrilled at the idea of reading it at some point. Also great cover, really selling it for me, and also really works on my kind of blue shelf now that I didn't expect to turn into a blue shelf, but we all like rainbows nowadays, don't we? Yes. Next we have Eleanor Oliphant is Completely Fine by Gail Honeyman. So this book follows Eleanor Oliphant, who apparently is completely fine. She's living a very simple life, keeping it very contained and keeping it everything to what she knows. And then something very kind happens to her, and it's going to, I don't know, break her apart apparently. I think it's going to be very interesting to read. It's going to be talking about mental health, I believe, so we will see. And finally we have How Saints Die by Carmen Marcus. And this book is telling the story of a young girl whose mother has had a breakdown, and her father is a fisherman who is telling her stories using old sea myths. It was recommended on Jen Campbell's channel, and my friend Lily has said that it's a bit fairy tale-esque and that I might enjoy it, and so I'm hoping I will. It's set on the other side of the north, which I don't really know much about, but you know, I'm northern and I quite like that, so I'm hoping that I'll enjoy this book. I like myths, I like folklore, and I like fairy tales, and I have heard great things, so I'm really looking forward to this one, and we'll get there eventually. And them's the books. If you have read any of them and would like to discuss them, please feel free to do so down in the comments. I hope you enjoyed this video, and until next time, that is all.